Hello and welcome to Mac Gamecast episode 21. I'm John Carr. As always, with me today is Ted. It's just going to be the two of us. Everyone else is too busy to make it, so please enjoy the show.
I could complain about Bethesda.
Oh, that's a great start. I like that. I like that a lot.
I spent a lot of time trying to get Elder Scrolls to work on Mac. Oh my gosh, my brother gave me they gave me the game for free as a gift, and
Are we talking about the Elder Scrolls Online here?
Yeah, Elder Scrolls Online.
Okay,
Yeah, it's an MMO.
okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
and it's a nice game. I reviewed it when it first came out back whenever that was, 10, 15 years, 10, 12 years ago. I don't remember. It's been a long time. And I think I reviewed it for Inside Mac Games, so I actually had an account with them. But it's been many years, and I figured the game's probably matured, and they've probably made some improvements, and it might be worth a go with it. And he was kind of interested in trying to play it together, so I said, I'll give it a shot. And I thought, oh, good, and there's a Mac version. I'll be able to play on the Mac side. Cool. And it's like 100 and some odd megabytes down, a gigabytes download.
Right.
I mean, it's immense. And so I let the computer slog through the whole freaking download, got it in, found out that after all those years, my account was still hidden in the archives of Bethesda. So I had a character that I had worked on back, and so I get everything set up. I load it in, and the camera spins.
Oh no.
I mean, it was almost sickening. I mean, like I'm in one position and the world's spinning around me like a whirlwind. Oh my gosh, I spent 5 minutes. Well, I don't know how long it was. It seemed like a long time. Like babying the mouse, taking it down to the lowest resolution. I have one of those gaming mices you can do that with.
Right.
And finally eked it into a position where it was like not moving. And I moved forward and it started spinning again. It was like, oh my gosh. And several times I tried to load it, and on the load screen after you log in, it would just sit there for, forever. And finally I would give up, So I finally said, okay, enough is enough.
Interesting.
And but I honestly think, and I looked on their, and that was my complaint. So I go to their website and I, okay, troubleshoot. Let's figure out, see if I can do something to make it, what do I have to do to maybe calm things down, look for an update a driver. I don't know.
Right.
I go to their website and there's absolutely no support. There's people complaining left and right about the Mac version. And I think it has something to do with Monterey more than anything else.
Okay.
And don't get me into that. One of those Intel orphans that I'm starting to become. And so anyhow, I spent a goodly amount of time looking at that, and finally said, it's really not worth it. If I want to play the game, I'll pop over to Boot Camp and reload the whole thing again, see what happens, so I can keep it within the 2 hours. Their Steam will give you a refund if you just can't get it to work.
Right,
and,
right.
It plays like a charm on Windows.
Nice.
No problem. I moved around, can't remember what to do. So after all that time, I don't remember where all the controls are. It took me a while to start pulling it back into my brain. I was like, oh, push this key for the horse and all this type of stuff. So I finally said, okay, I got it to work. If he really wants to play, I'll play with him on that platform. But that was, again, it was another, 100 megabyte download. I just wish the code was similar enough. I could have just transferred it over, but it won't let you do that. So
too bad.
And,
that would be interesting.
But the good news is the characters, they're restored on their site, so there was no problem moving those over. So
that's good. What kind of character did you make? Did you remember, or do you remember?
It was. I think I want to say Elf Ranger.
Nice.
I know what she. they had a bow and a couple other things, and I'm like, I don't remember anything about the game, so other than the fact that I had played it, so I decided, the smartest thing to do for me would be to run through the beginning scenario again, get my brain up to speed if I was going to play it, and then and then once I felt comfortable with it, pop over to my other characters that I had created, and take off with them. But
that makes sense. Funny enough, I don't think I have you on Steam.
Yeah.
Because I thought, oh, while he's talking, I'll go look like how many hours he's played Elder Scrolls Online. Then I'm like, wait a minute, I don't think I have Ted on Steam somehow.
In all honesty, I'm looking at I don't think when I reviewed it, I don't think I had it on Steam. I think I had
it was a standalone launcher.
Standalone launcher at that time. So I had it, I had a Bethesda account. So I'm only at 64 minutes with this game so far. Yeah. Now my brother, who started with Windows, he had to start from scratch to make a character and everything, and he spent over an hour, and he still hasn't actually gotten into the game. He spent all that time trying to build a character and figure things out. And he finally got into the game, and his time to play ran out, and all he got was like this some sort of a chest you get for even a weekly basis or something like that. So he took that and he says, "Yeah, I'll take that." And he quit. It's kind of, I don't know if I'll get really into it, but it was just one of those things where he thought it might be fun, so I went with it.
Well, I know you're a big MMO guy, long time WoW player, though you seem to have retired that. So are you an Elder Scrolls fan otherwise? Like, Skyrim or Oblivion or anything?
Not particularly. I like I said, I played it back in the day. I back at the time it was clunky, and World of Warcraft was quite mature, and that was my experience, and so I tried a new game, and I figured, okay, I'll give it a try, but compared to World of Warcraft at the time, it was kind of clunky, kind of like you found yourself standing there going, okay, what am I going to do?
Right.
You don't necessarily need to be constantly fed what to do, but it kind of helps that there's a little bit of direction in a game like that, especially when you have an open world. And if I remember correctly, I think I remember, just kind of like wandering around through the woods and bumping into quests, and I'm going, there's no way to figure out. If I hadn't walked left instead of right, I wouldn't have never seen this guy, and maybe that's real life. But, that is real life, but nevertheless, in a game, you don't want to spend hours and hours wandering around the environment and finding nothing to do. So that was my biggest complaint about the game is there wasn't a whole lot of direction at the time. And then it's going back to the original. So I figured, okay, I'll try again and see how much they've improved and matured over the years. And I don't have a report on that yet, though, because I haven't gotten any farther than got the game working. But
okay, I'm actually interested to hear you comment on that sometime. I played this game quite a while ago, for maybe about 7 or 8 hours. Actually, Steam says 7.6, but let's assume there's some idle time. Let's just call it like 7 hours.
Okay.
The best of my buddy, who's also a big MMO guy, this guy named Rob, a younger fellow. Actually, I think he's younger than me. Anyway, that doesn't matter. Point is, he's also a big MMO guy. He played a lot of WoW. I don't know. He's been playing New World, some other stuff I can't remember because I'm not an MMO guy. Anyway, this was on sale. It says I last played it February 4th, but what year? Because it definitely wasn't this year. Trying to figure out like when I actually had this thing installed. It was a number of years ago. I think this was like 2018 or something. Okay. Anyway, it was on sale for $10 or $9.99. So we were playing a bunch of other games at that time, various cooperative games and, duo games and whatever, RPG shooters and stuff. So he's like, yo, he's always trying to get me into MMOs because, he knows I'm not much of an MMO guy, but he knows I like the Elder Scrolls. I'm a pretty big, I'm a big Skyrim fan. I was a fan of the Elder Scrolls Legends, which was a card game set in the Elder Scrolls universe.
Okay.
Think Hearthstone by Elder Scrolls.
Right.
ultimately a different game and had some unique stuff on the board. Like the board was actually split into two sections, like two lanes essentially, which made for very interesting like board states and strategy. That game eventually shut down, basically, unfortunately. This is my favorite card game ever, actually. So I'm a big Elder Scrolls fan. I think I had almost 400 hours into that card game. I think 384 on Steam. So big fan, but it was also available on Mac, which was nice from day one. But the game didn't get enough support. I don't know. It lasted a couple of years, then the plug pulled, I guess. I think you can technically still buy it and play it, but there's no more updates on the devs. You know, they put out an update saying, sorry, no more updates. Right. So it's technically like still online, and you can play like PvE adventures and stuff, but I think I didn't actually check player counts lately, but there's probably not very many people playing it. Anyway, so my friend, knowing all this, was like, okay, maybe this is a way to get him into MMOs, right? Because he's such an Elder Scrolls fan. Of course, the previous games aren't available on Mac, like Skyrim, though funny enough, I played it on Mac through a Cider wrapper, which was taken from, I don't know what game. Back then, Trans Gaming was releasing various games through Cider wrappers, which was a commercial fork of wine. And the early versions were quite poor of Trans Gaming. The games were like really stuttery and stuff. I remember playing like Prince of Persia, the reboot. I thought it was a fun game, but yeah, it was like really bad performance and stuff. Anyway, Trans Gaming got the optimization down later, and somehow users figured out how to extract the wrapper and just drop games into it, and it was kind of almost like a universal thing that would run, which was interesting. Anyway, Skyrim ran flawlessly, so I played a whole bunch of Skyrim back in 2011 on some like 2010 iMac. I don't recall having a single like error or crash, or the game itself is very buggy. Because the games are notoriously buggy, but like I didn't have like, oh, the mouse doesn't work, or keyboard input problems, or like the game's crashing, or visuals are glitching out, like things you might possibly expect running through Wine. None of that, so that was cool. Anyway, I'm getting off. I'm rambling. The point is, that's my like Elder Scrolls backstory. But I'm just not an MMO guy. So I did play for 6 or 7 hours with my buddy, and I also noticed that sort of undirected open worldness of the game that you mentioned yourself. And I guess to some players, that's probably what they're looking for. And that's sort of just like they'd find that compelling. Oh, I can just kind of wander around anywhere and find stuff and get quests and do things. I'd probably land somewhere more in the middle. I would like some combination of freedom and guidance, especially since I'm not an MMO guy. So I definitely struggled. Like, wait, where are we going? Why are we doing this thing? Like, what do I do next? I don't know.
Well, even as an MMO guy myself, I mean, I'm the same way. I like a little bit of guidance. I mean, I still explore. I mean, one of my favorite things in the original version of World of Warcraft was I managed to get the title of Explorer, because I actually went to every part of the original map that they claimed as part of the achievement. And I mean, I like that part of it myself. I like to see all the different parts of the things, but so I like the freedom to move around. But at the same time, I also like a little bit of guidance, something to bring me to an area so that I will go, and not stumble into an area that's going to like send me reeling in an instant.
yeah, exactly. But I recall like, the visuals were pretty good. Like the feeling of Elder Scrolls itself seemed to be captured pretty well. I mean, the game is rated, it's pretty popular on Steam. I think it's rated very positive, like all time and recent. Like people like it. And they update the game a lot. There's always like a new expansion once or twice a year or whatever. I think middle of this year in the summer, they released Blackwood. That doesn't really mean anything to me, but maybe it means something to Elder Scroll fans. I'm not sure how well this currently runs on Mac. I mean, it's got to be tough being a Mac developer these days. You have, we're still dealing with like After Effects of 32-bit to 64-bit. Then we have stuff like yearly OS updates. Okay, Windows does that too, but if you're not a Mac specialist, you're like, things are more prone to go wrong. Like I just actually updated to Monterey this week, and suddenly a few of my apps don't work. They just refuse to open and crash. So, and that they were fine before in in the previous version. Then we have, the Silicon Intel to Apple Silicon switch. It's a lot to deal with in a short period of time.
Oh, it sure is. Yeah.
For developers who are not Mac specialists like Feral, I'm hesitant to include Aspire at this point because they don't seem to release Mac games anymore. But I'll get to them later. I have a rant about Aspire. Yeah, so Elder Scrolls Online, I actually was going to bring them up originally, so I'm actually glad you opened with Bethesda. It's interesting because Bethesda doesn't make the game, they just publish it.
Okay.
The developer is ZeniMax Online, who I'm
Right,
not,
ZeniMax, right, yeah.
I'm not sure what else they make. Oh, well, maybe they're all just the same. No, wait a minute. I think ZeniMax owns Bethesda. I think they're like okay, because they're just listed. All their games are listed on. Okay, it just goes to Bethesda. Never mind. There's no listing for ZeniMax on Steam. When you click on them, it just goes to Bethesda. So maybe they're just a branch of Bethesda. I don't know. Anyway, by all accounts, it's a pretty good MMO. Basically, you and I didn't really get into it. I remember playing some hours, going on some quests. It's interesting because you can run around alone and kind of pseudo play it like, a single player game. But at the end of the day, of course, there's going to be players running around. And I remember, stumbling into some town after wandering around some mountains, and I saw a town. I'm like, oh God, there's a town finally, like somewhere to go. So I ran over there on my horse. Got involved in some quest somehow about some stolen goods, and I had to go spy on someone and sneak in. That was kind of fun, reminiscent of like a Skyrim quest. So it's like, oh, go hide in this attic and spy on this person. And I'm like, cool. Well, the problem is when I got to the attic, there was also 3 other people hiding behind the box I was supposed to be hiding behind, because it's a multiplayer game, right? So it's like, the immersions. I mean, it's unintentionally hilarious, but also weirdly immersion breaking, because it's here's this sneaky quest you're supposed to go do, and then you show up and there's a bunch of other people there doing the same thing. So I was like, so we're all crouched behind this box, watching this, NPCs talk, and I was, so yeah, good game, just, not the game for me, basically, because I really struggle to get into MMOs. But I love, big RPG games, like Skyrim or, Divinity Original Sin series and your Diablos and whatever. I guess we haven't really had a game similar-ish, large open world RPG game on Mac in quite a while. I mean, the last thing that comes to mind is probably something like Fable. Really? And that was 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah.
The broader sprawling ones. We've had plenty of not plenty, but some open world games with light RPG elements like Shadow of Mordor and even Tomb Raider. They're semi-open world and they're light RPG. You have a skill you can pick. You can upgrade your character, but they aren't true RPGs. They're really action adventure games with some RPG elements. So I'm excluding those from the category. Yeah. But, by all accounts, it's a good game, I guess. Okay, I remember now. I did install this. Actually, okay, that's why it's telling me I installed this in February of this year, is because I was doing some gameplay tests on my M1 Air for Mr. Macwright. For a while, I had partnered with his channel and was doing, Mac gaming, new releases and some performance benchmarking and stuff like that. I don't do that for him anymore, but that's why I had it installed. That's why it's telling me February 4th. I'm like, I didn't play this on my iMac, and that's because I installed it on my MacBook Air, the M1, because we were just testing performance and stuff. And I do remember getting, I don't know, I was in the middle of nowhere, I had no idea what was going on or anything, so I just recorded some footage of me running around. My friend likes it a bunch, though. He's played it for the guy I mentioned, Rob. He played it for 150 hours or something. Maybe by MMO standards, that isn't a lot. People probably think thousands. But if you think about it, playing any game for over 100 hours is quite a lot of time, in my opinion.
A lot of time, yeah.
Even if relative to maybe normal MMO standards, it's not a lot. Yeah, so he liked it. Yeah. So, yeah, on the topic of, general I mentioned I was looping back around to Aspyr, which has no relevance to Elder Scrolls, but more the relevance of like Mac games and porting and stuff. See, like if we want to talk about, probably we'll save it for next podcast, really, like year in review at this point, but just kind of in general, like you can see a clear thing, like talking about Feral Interactive. In 2019, they put out quite a few games, like quite a lot of games. And then just as COVID-19 hit, you can see in 2020 and 2021, they put out far less games. I think they put out 1 or 2 games in 2020 and actually one in 2021. Actually, they only put out 1 in 2020, which is Troy. Total War Troy. In 2021, they put out Total War Rome Remastered. So a lot of Total War stuff. Just talking about Feral here, not other games, though frankly there weren't that many. But I'm talking about like the Mac porting houses in general. So you could see the obvious effect that COVID-19 had on them, because they had quite a big lineup in all previous years. We were getting like 4 to 5 big games a year, multiple other games always announced on the horizon, and then COVID-19 hit. And I'm not trying to get political here. It's just a fact that this situation has had an adverse effect on small to medium businesses all around the world. So Feral are big in the Mac space, but by any like corporate, like, you know, bigger business standards and maybe some big publisher or PC developer or whatever, they're small. They're not a big company. And I can only imagine that they suffered some, you know, whatever they suffered from that. Clearly their output has suffered, whatever the case. And they've hardly put out anything Mac-wise other than a Total War thing. And they have said they're porting Total War Warhammer 3 for 2022. The PC release date got moved from like basically now till February 2022, mid-February. Feral said it'd be available, you know, shortly after that. So probably March, I would assume, 2022 for a Mac release, something like that. So basically getting like 1 big Mac game a year from Feral at this point. What that changes, who knows? But what they have been focusing on is iOS stuff. They've been putting out a lot of iOS games. And we've talked about iOS a little more lately, especially since you had an iPad. You were looking for some games, and we had some discussions around that. But it got me thinking specifically. I was just thinking about it today while I was having some coffee, doing some chores, thinking about podcast topics and stuff. And then I realized, you know, Feral's been shifting towards this for a while, even before the pandemic hit or the COVID-19, whatever. They started doing some like Android ports, iOS ports, a few Switch games, I think even. But then I realized, it probably makes a lot of sense, especially when times are tough, like they are now for, I'm assuming it's tough for them, to work on stuff like iOS games, because I assume it's much easier to port an iOS game in general, like in terms of like a scope of a project, than it is to port like a, you know, big Mac game. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just ignorant of that. But it would seem to me like that might be easier. Maybe it isn't. I don't know, I guess. But in any case, they're doing a lot of it, which to me says that it's more feasible for them to do. Or it could be the simple reason that in actuality, the iOS market for gaming is actually way bigger than the Mac gaming market.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe whether they're easier to port or not, if their market's a lot bigger, they're probably getting much better returns on their work at the end of the day. And at the end of the day, even if they love Mac gaming, they're a business. They need to make money. They need to keep the lights on and employees paid, you know. And as much as I'd prefer they just pump out tons of Mac games, if, you know, what it takes to keep them going is more iOS focus and, you know, 1 or 2 Mac games a year, well, okay, I'll take it. But yeah, that was my realization today. I was like, wait a minute. Regardless of the projects, whether, I don't know if iOS ports are like easier or cheaper or whatever, I don't know. That would be an interesting question to find out. Because like they're bringing Alien Isolation to iOS, for example. I don't know if it already released or it's going to soon. I'm not sure about that. I guess I could just go look.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
But so that it's technically a AAA game being ported to iOS. So it's like, well, and of course, then they have to do some tricks. But at this point, especially with like an iPad Pro, I mean, that's just an M1 chip. The thing's really speedy. But I guess I'm not sure if it'll work because it's just such a non. Okay, it's not out yet. It's just coming soon. It's still coming soon. Alien Isolation, so it's not out yet. I don't know, like, will it work up to what, an iPhone 10 or below, or an iPad whatever or below? I don't know the exact requirements, but it just makes sense because there's tons of people who don't own Macs but own iOS devices, because iPads are like the de facto tablet when people talk about them and use them, and iPhones aren't the de facto smartphone because, Android's a huge competitor, obviously. And there's also tons of Android tablets, but it seems, as far as my understanding goes, iPad kind of has the market dominance there, from what I know. Whereas the smartphone market is more competitive in terms of, user share or whatever, market share or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that just makes sense. So I guess we'll see, Total War Warhammer 3 coming. That doesn't excite everyone, because if you're not a real-time strategy sort of grand war kind of gamer, you're not going to be interested in Total War.
Right.
But if you're a Warhammer fan, it's really fun. For me, I was never that interested in the Total War series before. It had all the historical stuff and Napoleon and Hannibal and, through the years, all kinds of different eras of conflict. And of course, I don't know, they had the Japanese ones, which were pretty cool, but I still couldn't really get into. They had the Chinese one, like the Romance of the Three Kingdoms thing. Anyway, it took Warhammer version to actually get me into Total War because I'm such a Warhammer nut. I'm like, oh, okay, now I found the game really fun. But yeah, beyond Warhammer 3, it's just a question mark. Maybe that'll be the only game we get for the year, and it'll be 2023 before we get another one. Don't know. But speaking of releases, and I'm not trying to be a downer on Mac Gaming. I'm just trying to be realistic, and kind of think about it. And I was thinking about notable events for the year. And again, I won't get too much into this because we'll have kind of a year in review next episode, hopefully with more of the team. But I was thinking that Aspyr Media, an otherwise long-term, Mac porting house, they got acquired by Saber Interactive this year. Oh. And one might think, well, really, technically the Embracer Group and then their subsidiary, Saber Interactive, all these corporations are so confusing. They have umbrella upon umbrella upon umbrella. Anyway, Saber Interactive is a big PC publisher. They do all kinds of stuff, and they're also a developer. So they bought Aspyr Media, and one might think, oh, well, maybe they won't. Who knows if they're making Mac stuff anymore? It's unknown. But when I went and checked their history, I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, we can kind of clearly plot the course of Feral, where they're releasing tons of stuff in 2019 and every year before that. And then as soon as COVID-19 hit, things took a sharp drop. So that's kind of an obvious reason. They didn't state it, but you just look at the dates and it lines up exactly. So that's pretty obvious. But then I was looking at Aspyr. I'm like, well, I haven't really heard much from them in a while. And then I went and looked, and that's because they haven't put out a Mac game since 2018.
Ooh.
Well before COVID. Full year, maybe even a year and a half if you check the dates. So there's no reason you can't really account for that. And they've since published 2 or 3 other games in the meantime. Well, that's the other thing. They also started publishing games rather than just developing / porting them. So they published, I think, 2 or even 3 PC games after their last Mac game release. And since then, we haven't heard anything from them other than they're working on a Knights of the Old Republic remake. But again, platforms aren't announced, so, you go to their website, and even in all the statements about them being bought, it's all, we are Mac porting specialists, but we also do PC stuff and mobile porting, and yay us. So, we've talked about this a little bit on the show before, but seeing as Saber Interactive bought them this year, it feels a little more, although that was back in February, so it was the start of the year. But yeah, the date thing, it was interesting to me to check those dates and look at Feral and go, okay, this is what's going on over here. It's pretty obvious. And looking at Aspyr and being like, well, I'm not really sure what's going on over here. Other than they, in the past, and I'm talking mid, around the 2010 to 2016 range or thereabouts, They focused a lot on like kind of big IPs, right? They did a lot of Civilization stuff. They did Borderlands 2 and the pre-sequel. They did, what am I forgetting? Oh my goodness. I'm totally blanking. Oh, they did some Call of Duty stuff, Call of Duty Black Ops, back in 2013, which was a pretty big hit, at least by Mac gaming standards. Even though it was Mac only multiplayer, they did a cool thing where it had cross-platform availability with, not cross-platform, haha. You could play multiplayer with the Mac App Store, which otherwise is impossible. You want to go buy Civilization on the Mac App Store, you only play with Civ players. You want to go buy Borderlands 2 on the Mac App Store, you can only play with other Mac App Store players, and so on.
Right.
But Black Ops broke the mold. You could play with Steam players and Mac App Store players. Haha. So suddenly you actually had like a community to play around. So it was pretty cool. I got big into that back in the day. Put out a lot of YouTube videos, started clans, blah, blah, blah. Nowadays, it's 32-bit, so of course you can't play it unless, you have a pre-64-bit machine or whatever, or OS/machine. And of course the multiplayer community is probably all of like 10 people or something at this point. It does have a rockin' single-player campaign though. But, okay, I'm sorry. I did Aspire dirty. I'm wrong. They did drop Black Ops 3 in mid-2020.
Okay.
Out of nowhere. Like, no announcement, nothing. Literally, the day it was out, it was just, surprise, here's Black Ops 3. And everyone's like, what? Okay, cool, I guess. I forget the exact date. Now I want to look it up. Black Ops 3 Mac. I remember because I showed up in an email on my computer. I'm wrong. It was mid-2019? Why did I think it was 2020? I guess I'm an idiot. Apparently it was mid-2019. So says Wikipedia, unless Wikipedia is wrong. Okay, in any case, they have released something past 2018. That's the main point.
Yeah, okay.
It was either 2019 or 2020. I'm not sure which. So, okay, I did wrong them in my rant. Sorry, Aspire. Let me see if I still have the email. Oh, here it is. Yep. It was mid-2019. It's even the title of the email, surprise. Call of Duty Black Ops 3 is available on Mac. I was very surprised. Quick review of that is basically, it's not very good, and they really shouldn't have ported it. I don't really know why they did. It was basically dead on arrival because unlike Black Ops 1 before it, there was no Mac App Store version. It was only a Steam version, and even worse, there's no crossplay with PC. It was Mac only multiplayer. And there's a single player campaign. You can go in and play it. But at the end of the day, Call of Duty's live and die by their multiplayer. They always have. They always have some flashy, 5 or 6 hour campaign full of explosions and set pieces, and maybe some, sort of story or not. Whether you consider that good, I don't know. I thought Black Ops 1 story was not bad. But still, Black Ops 3 is like, there's nobody playing it because there's only other Mac users. And it's this vicious loop of anyone who looks at it goes, well, there's not enough people playing it, so I'm not going to buy it. And since nobody buys it and starts playing it, it needed like a jump start, right? You needed like 50, 100 people, which sounds like a stupidly small amount, but it's a lot for Mac users. I mean, even at its peak, Black Ops 1 had like 500 or 600 people playing it. And that was like a lot of people for Mac gaming. But it worked. There was tons of games to play. You could always find servers and matches. It was no issue. So Black Ops 3 never got jump started. I think at any given time there was under 10, like 5 people on it. Like online at any given time. You can go and play bots. It's not that you can't play multiplayer. You can go play with bots, but do you really want to run around just playing with bots? No, you want to fight other humans. It's more fun. It's more challenging. Or you want to play with your buddies or whatever. So if you have a group of 2 to 4 people, you could buy it for the zombie mode, which is pretty popular. But that's probably I can only recommend it for. Regular multiplayer's dead. Was dead on arrival. I don't know why they even ported it, frankly. But the zombie mode's there. So if you got buddies and want to load up zombie mode, apparently that's pretty compelling. Anyway, I'm kind of rambling, but I wanted to not malalign Aspire too much.
Yeah.
So they did put out a game. I've always heard the licensing for newer Call of Duties was too expensive, which explains why they didn't, bring out a newer Call of Duty. Like say 2019. Okay, I guess it was late 2019, but they put out Modern Warfare. They meaning Activision. And it's like, oh, that'd be cool if we could actually get like a new Call of Duty game. But I heard long ago when I actually worked with Aspire a bunch on journalism and I wrote for their now defunct Game Agent blog. The problem was licensing. Activision always charged too much because Activision didn't ask them to port it to Mac, which is a different case, in which case they would pay them to port it. This was Aspire going to Activision saying, hey, can we license a game to port to Mac? And Activision's like, sure, it'll only cost some ridiculous, I think like six figure number or something to license a new one. And of course, how many Mac sales are they going to get? Like they would basically lose money porting a new Call of Duty game. And that's just sad. But the problem is Activision being greedy bums and wanting like a silly amount of money to port the game. It's like, come on, guys, help us out here. But they're big corporates with tons of money and tons of audience. They don't have a reason to care, sadly, at this point anyway. Yeah. So what else, now that we're kind of done complaining about various companies, what's been on your gaming plate lately?
Oh, geez. In all honesty, I've I've been, sadly to say, mostly what I've been playing is on the Win side. And I've been putting a lot of time into New World, which I find really a lot of fun. And this game, I don't know how popular it is, but it's called Generation Zero. And it's actually another one of these ones that's... It's kind of weird. It's like an open world, but it really isn't. I mean, it's open, but it's only like, you and whoever you invite, or you can play on public servers, but it's not like people just running around. However, it's different in this sense. It's you against this tremendous amount of robots.
Okay.
And the storyline is, without going into a lot, like any giving away anything in the later story. But the beginning thing is like the world was attacked by aliens and they've put these robots all over the world and you're like the only person around. So it's like, I know it's one of your biggest complaints in some of the games where there's nobody else in the game, or there's no one, or your character never says anything because there's, when you're interacting. Well, this world there's no people in the world but you and a whole bunch of robots. And, it's pretty good though, because there's a lot of growth in the game. You can develop, you can find better weapons. You start off with a pistol and a baseball bat and work your way up into some higher level stuff. But then as you do, obviously the robots you confront tend to be a little bit more powerful and they can get pretty nasty. So, but I like it in the sense that you're not fighting other humans as much as you're fighting these intelligent machines, and it's a little bit of satisfaction to knock them out. And then later on in the storyline, it gets more involved and you find out what really happened. And it's and the other interesting thing is, instead of happening in some sort of an imaginary world, I think it's Sweden. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yep, Sweden, 1989. I just looked.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and it's kind of it's one of the fun things about it, and it's kind of like the rough translations to English on some of the stuff, and trying to, I play with a friend, and we're trying. Let's meet at such and such a town, and neither of us can figure out how to pronounce it, but we get the idea across, and you play with someone else, and it's a lot of fun. It's a little bit buggy. One of the things I've run into, just like last night when I was playing, was the game will generate more AI robots than it's capable of handling.
Oh,
and it will just fall apart on itself. So obviously, when you have two people playing together, the game kind of ramps up the opponents. except if you're doing like a major um, quest, which I was trying to accomplish last night. With two people doing it, it's like it's wall to wall robots almost. And we were having more problems with the game crashing than we were having with the robots, defeating the robots. It's just a matter of being smart, keeping out of their way, and whatnot. But yeah, there's a couple little bugs in it like that, but it's a very good game, and I find it really compelling to play. So, um, you know, but that one and New World's just a hoot compared to some of my experience with other MMOs. So
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I don't know. See a lot of people complaining about it online, but basically, it's a huge world, open with a lot of stuff to do. The game, what do you call it? The leveling system is very lenient, I guess is a good word for it. There's all types of things you can do to level. I mean, it's not like, oh yeah, go out and do this quest and you'll get something, but you can get you get experience or leveling points for doing crafting, and there's all types of crafting to do, which is a hoot. I mean, there was this one night, one of the things you can do is you can buy a house in the town, and then you can build furniture for it.
Wow.
I can remember one night I was like, oh, I just feel like putzing around. I think I'll go build some furniture for my house. So, I went and cut down some trees and built, like a bed, chest of drawers. And I had some iron. So I put a what do you call it? One of those wood stoves in there, and shelf on the wall, a chair and a kitchen table. It's like,
Nice.
it's really stupid, but it's a lot of fun because and all these little things that you do, you get experience, and then you're able to make more complex components in the different genres. So there's obviously the basic things like working with metals and then forging things, making iron equipment, and then there's also the magical aspects, is the making the arcana, like healing potions, mana potions, and other things, potions for different things. And then the world is really dynamic. I mean, one of the things that's kind of fun is there's all these different towns, and then there's these different factions. There's 3 different factions in the world, and the factions have wars, and whoever wins. So, like, if say 2 towns with different factions will have a war, whoever wins acquires the other town as part of their faction. And if the town is part of your faction, you get certain advantages if you're part of the same faction, and which you wouldn't get if you were from a different one. So, but the faction ownership of the towns keeps changing. You'll log on, you'll say, oh, my favorite town, the one I've been hanging out in, is now on the other side. That type of stuff, which I find, which it just adds to another level. It's just what would happen if a bunch of people found a new island or world, and they were constantly, fighting amongst themselves. And of course, in the world itself, there's this I'm trying to think of what the word for it is, but they're like a plague and monster things that are trying to like ruin everybody's take over the world type of thing. And
Right.
so there's always those type of battles, and then there's these little things you can do where it takes their blight is infecting an area, and it's supposed to be like a 5-man group attack that section of blight to destroy it. And if you do, when it's blighted, you walk into the area and it's like all smoky and it's kind of red, and there's a lot of these really blight monsters running around, and they'll attack you if you walk into it. And if you can destroy the blight, it just disappears and goes back to normal landscape, which is kind of fun. I've done a bunch of that. And there's also the, kind of like a dungeons where you get into it with a group of people, and there's an intention of going in there. You got to get whatever thing is hidden in there you need for whatever quest, and there could be multiple things for multiple quests in any one. So people are doing those all the time, and so there's there's the wars between people, and there's the wars between the people and the corruption, and there's the war, and then there's just the regular PvP stuff going on, as well as the PvE stuff, which is what I spend most of my time doing, and
Nice.
so there are a lot of stuff to do. I mean, I could spend an hour just doing one aspect. Oh, geez, I haven't worked on my logging in a while. I guess I'll go cut down trees and build something. Or, I'll go look for interesting metals and try to make a component for like I have a axe with a ability to add a gem to it, so then that gem enhances its abilities. So go find some gems and cut them and polish them, and then they'll add abilities to my whatever. So I mean, it's all types of stuff to it, and I like that part of it where you can actually make equipment or as well as enhance equipment, and the equipment that you make or enhance is decent, and the higher level your skill of ability to make stuff, the higher level stuff that you can actually make. So it's
okay, yeah.
Yeah, which is one of the problems I had with World of Warcraft. You got to a point where you would make this stuff just to get level of your skill, but none of the stuff you ever made was anywhere in the realm of what you could get by doing things. So it was like, why bother? It was the same way with vendors. You go to a vendor and you say, "Oh, I want to buy something new," and the vendor has basically junk.
Right.
And, and the only purpose of the vendor was to sell the stuff you didn't want. And right. So whereas in New World, there is no vendors to sell your junk. The only option you have to do to get rid of it, which is kind of really unique, I thought, is you can break it up into peak components, so that you say if it's an iron sword, you might get an iron bar back, and then you get some points towards repairing your own gear.
Right.
So, and in order to repair your gear, you need, repair points, or they have a word for it, but, so so you basically need to have those. So you get junk that you can't use, or stuff that you're not following like you can take a path into magic, you can take a path into fighting with swords, or you can kind of do a little bit of both depending on how you enhance your stats. And, which I also find is interesting. There's not any of this typical RPG where, I want to be a magic user, and so now I'm a magic user, and I can't pick a sword up because that's against the rules, Right. Whereas in this game, it's like, if you want to use a sword, go ahead. But if you want to put your stats into intelligence, then your ability to use magical enhanced items will improve. And if you want to be able to wield this massive warhammer, then you need to put it into your strength. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to pick it up or carry it, because there's your ability to carry weight is also based on your stats. So it's not like you can just buy a bigger bag like in World of Warcraft. I used to make these bags that would hold 30 slots in them. And you could sell them on the market because people wanted them. And the thing is, but it didn't matter what was in them. It could be a horse, it could be a small little ring, but it would still fit in the one slot.
Nice. Okay.
In this game, it's about weight. So you have a sack and you have a weight limit. And so if you want to carry a big war mallet, it weighs 10 pounds or whatever. It, and you can't carry it if you have it filled up with other stuff.
So it's a little more realistic, or
a little bit more realistic, and it makes it a lot of fun, because you when you think about it, okay, if I want to be a strong person, I'll put my work into strength, or and that will give me the ability to carry more. Or if I want to be a magic person, I'll put my thing into intelligence, and I don't get so the strength isn't there, but I can get along because I can fight my way through things. So I like that. It gives you more freedom to do stuff and change your mind if you want to. So yeah,
nice.
I can rattle on forever on that. I've really been enjoying it. So
no, it sounds like a pretty good implementation. And while there's no native Mac version, it does run quite well through GeForce Now. Which
I haven't seen it on GeForce Now. Do you see it there?
yeah, no, it's there. You just punch
Okay.
in New World, it shows up.
Oh, good. I haven't seen it. I actually thought about trying that. Um, the other thing is, just like anything else, I actually got in touch with the company and sent them some feedback when they were asking for feedback, and I
Okay,
said,
nice.
please get me a Mac version
Nice.
because it's like, yeah, I'm going to ask. It's a great game, and I actually said that. I said, there's a lot of guys I know that would like to play it on the Mac, and if you made a Mac version, you'd probably get more customers.
Yeah,
And it
for
is
sure.
Amazon. I mean, they're always looking for customers.
They are. I like that. Yeah, that's one thing you can rely on, I think. Amazon wants more customers. I mean, everyone does, but like, there's this thing where like Amazon's slowly taking over the world sort of feeling. So, yeah, I'll believe that. But I've heard pretty good things about it through GeForce Now. So if you don't want to bother boot camping or you can't boot camp for whatever reason, check out GeForce Now. I'm always plugging it because I think it's an awesome bit of software, and it has 1 hour free sessions, so you don't even need to pay anything to go check it out.
Yeah.
I believe New World is a paid game, though, right? It's not like a free to play.
It's a paid. You buy the game, yeah. But
Right,
I mean,
right.
it wasn't. I think it was like a week ago, last week maybe. It was on special for a discount. So, I mean,
Right.
good thing about Steam is they often discount games or have midweek madness or something like that. Keep your eyes open. But
Yeah, I've noticed that even for fairly new games, like
yeah,
whether it's New World, which was just released in late October, so it's pretty new.
yeah,
Or something like Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm referencing PC games here.
yeah.
Single player game like that just released, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago. And then whatever the Steam sale hit, and boom, it's like 20-30% off.
Yeah. No,
And it's not, yeah.
I was going to say I picked up Borderlands 3 on the Windows side, and they discounted it like half price. So I picked up. I was going to buy it anyhow. I picked up 2 copies and gave one to my brother.
Oh, snap. Maybe I can join you sometime. I'm a huge Borderlands fan.
Yeah. So
speaking of Borderlands, I did just post a review of it this week to the MGC website and Inside Mac Games forum. Very in-depth review of Borderlands 3 and all the DLC, actually. So
nice.
I'm curious. I don't spoil anything, so it would actually be interesting if you took a peek at that sometime, or maybe after you played it some more, and see if you like agree with my pros and cons.
Okay, where was that posted?
On the Mac Gamecast website or inside Mac Games forum.
Okay.
Either or. It's the same review posted in both places.
Okay, I'll look there. Yeah, I know what that is. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I'm a big fan. There's a little bit of weirdness going on there. The Mac version can play with anyone else. One of the benefits of it being ported in-house by Gearbox. For example, back in the day with, say, Borderlands 2, Feral ported Borderlands 1, so it's pretty funny. Each game was ported by a different company. Borderlands 2, when a new patch came out, which was relatively often, you had to wait 1 or 2 weeks for Aspyr to patch it before you could play with PC users again. If you were only playing with Mac friends, it didn't matter. You could just play. But if you had any PC friends, there was a version mismatch because they had the new one and you were behind.
Yeah, I ran into that, yeah.
Yeah, I ran into it fairly often because I was playing with some PC buddies, mix of Mac and PC buddies. None of that is the problem in Borderlands 3. Everything's same moment, same day, whatever. You can play with PC people. You can play with console players. You can play with anyone. The only caveat is there's no Mac version on Steam, and I have no idea why.
Yeah, I know. I kept looking for it because I wasn't going to buy it on another platform because I already own it.
Yeah. The only Mac version is on Epic Game Store.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It doesn't make any sense to me, other than I feel like they're too lazy to want to manage like 2 repositories. Like, oh, there's an update. We got to push like the Mac update and the PC update on Epic. But I'm too lazy to like do that on Steam, so we're just going to release the Windows version. That's like the only reason I can imagine.
Well, the other thing is, didn't Epic have the original release of Borderlands 3 when it came out?
Yes, it was exclusive for maybe even up to a year. I think.
Yeah, it was a while. Yeah,
it was a while. Yeah, because I bought it. I had pre-ordered it actually back in 2019. I think it released in September 21st, I believe, 2019. I had already pre-ordered it, played it literally day one, got home from work, hopped on. I had a buddy ready to go, and we played it. It was a great time. Well, it wasn't that great, actually. It was crashing on me constantly. Anytime I opened my inventory to, like, switch guns, crash. So, that's a little hard. But next day was fine. But a month later, or not even a month later, 3 weeks later or something, they released the Mac version, or about a month later. So then I just started playing it on the Mac side. But it's interesting. What I noted in my review is even though the game is over 2 years old, it feels really fresh because they've constantly patched the game and updated it. And the DLC honestly only recently finished a couple of months ago. Like they released the final one.
Yeah.
So that's been ongoing. And they also do cool stuff like seasonal events and timed events and basically just kind of lots of fun new stuff, new challenges, new challenge levels, new like raids to play, free of charge, just free updates to the game. So even if you just buy the core game, you have quite a lot of,
is it honestly, yeah. It's a long game. Yeah,
it's a long game. It's actually got a lot more content in it than Borderlands 2 core game. It's much longer and much bigger. The Borderlands 2 DLC is far better. I only liked 1 out of 4 DLC packs in Borderlands 3.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm kind of rambling. How much have you played of Borderlands 3 so far?
I finished it all the way through with one character, and I started a second one, but they did an update to it, and it was kind of getting a little clunky, and another game came up, so I but I actually went through the whole story with Borderlands 3 with one character.
Oh, nice. What character did you pick?
What do you call it? The robot guy? Can't think of his name right off the top of my head.
Flak?
Yeah, Flak. That was it.
The
Flak,
Beastmaster.
Yeah, the Beastmaster. I got the monkey with the guns.
The jabber. Yeah, okay, nice.
Sit back and let the monkey shoot everything.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, he's a fun character.
It was a lot of fun, yeah.
Yeah, I played through as Amara myself, the Siren. My buddy plays Flak, though. So, I got to see a lot of monkeys and other stuff running around in my game. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was a lot of fun. You pick up stuff. Yeah, I like some of the cosmetic stuff that was in the game, too. Pick up a hat or a face or something for your character. At least for Flak. I don't know how it was for the other characters because Flak
is pretty good. Good. Flak's one of the cooler, if not the coolest kind of designs from like just a core standpoint. Because he's like this badass robot, but he's got this like trench coat as well. So he's this weird mix of like obviously like technological because he's a robot, but then he's got this sort of like almost old west sort of dusty trench coat thing going on. He's really cool. His design is really cool. I think he was a fan favorite as far as I know. Yeah,
it was a lot of fun. The second character I did was the military female. I can't think of her name either.
Mose the gunner. Yep.
Yeah, the gunner, and she has this robot suit you get into. Well, not it's an armor fighting suit, like battle suit or whatever. You get into for a short period, which is pretty nice. Has some nice features. So, but I didn't get too far with her.
Sure. Yeah, her skill's interesting. Iron Bear is the mech, the armored suit.
Right.
Yeah, she's like less active than the other characters because they can use their action skills far more often.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas hers is kind of like a big cooldown, and you get this like, I don't know, brief moment of, I don't know, like maybe 20 seconds or something of like superpower because the mech's really strong.
The mech is,
It like totally melts bosses and elites and stuff, or just lots of mobs. And you can equip all kinds of cool different guns on it, and rail guns and grenade launchers and flamethrowers and whatever. But she's a little bit less active than the other characters with her action skills specifically because it has a pretty long cooldown. I think it's almost a minute or something. You can reduce that through skills or gear, but I'm just talking like baseline stats. Right. I noticed that when I played her, same thing. She's this character I also tried. I didn't finish a run with her, but I got her up to like level 40 or something. 43 maybe. Anyway, I thought she was pretty fun, but especially coming from Amara, who's hyper active. She has like really low cooldowns on her action skills. It was kind of like, I felt like I was waiting around a lot to use my action skill. Like, come on, hurry up, come off cooldown. But it's a great game. And the crossplay is nice. Like Epic can play with Steam, no problem. for examples. Like you and I could play. That would
Okay.
be fine. Even though you have the Steam version. So, yeah, Borderlands, great game. Even in 2021, just for some reason, you'd have to buy it on the Epic Games Store. And sadly, that is a game that is not available through GeForce Now. It was back in the beta, but then anyway, weird stuff happened with publishers and they pulled their games when it went live. So can't do it anymore. Anyway, that'll probably be it for this episode. We complained about some companies, yacked about some MMOs, had a good time with Borderlands 3. I guess quick conclusion on Borderlands 3, like would you recommend it as a Borderlands fan, or you still prefer like Borderlands 2, or like what's your like quick conclusion about that?
I would definitely recommend Borderlands 3 for Borderlands fans. I think it was very, very well done. The story was a lot of fun. It was really fun watching it, the story reveal as you move through the game. And I haven't played any of the DLCs, but I really did enjoy the going through the game itself. So yeah, I thought it was definitely worth the money. Yeah.
Yeah, if you happen to have the DLCs, I don't know what package you bought. The first one is really good. It's really fun. It's really strong. Mad Moxie's Heist and the Handsome Jackpot. It's got some long name.
Okay.
It's technically the first one in the series. If you are going to play one, play that one. It's really good. It's like top notch. The others are kind of like, pretty questionable, but that one's really strong. So that would be my suggestion. If you're ever going to revisit Borderlands 3 and want to play more of it, check out that one.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, that'll do us for episode 21. So thanks a lot, Ted. And hopefully we can all gather next week and maybe kind of discuss year in review or, stuff we're looking forward to in 2022 and things like that.
Sounds good.
All right. Cheers, Ted. And see you next time.
Yep. Take care.
Bye-bye. A big thank you to Kevin MacLeod for the intro and outro music. Be sure to check out his library on the web. You can find more episodes of our show on our website, macgamecast.com, or in all major podcast directories. If you enjoy the show, please consider commenting, following, or sharing. Thanks again for listening, and see you next time.